have a quick lesson on Spanish Romance or Romanza. It goes by many titles, but you can get the free sheet music off the website. There's a link for that underneath the video in the YouTube info section, or just on Werner Guitar Editions or This is Classical Guitar. I've been redoing a couple of videos recently, like some Tárrega pieces, Lágrima and Adelita, and now Spanish Romance here, which is an anonymous piece, so could be some note differences between versions, by the way. But anyway, I've been redoing some pieces, and just like the last two pieces by Tárrega, this piece is very, very melody-based, right? So the melody is the most important thing, and that melody is just that top line. So you could play that top line on its own and just make sure that you have it phrased well and that it's very legato, and the couple places where there's stretches in this piece, like from that G to the B there, that you can make sure that they're very legato and connected and everything is sounding right with the melody. In terms of the right hand, it's actually a pretty easy piece. It does what the guitar does best, which is just throws a melody into the top voice, and then you're just playing arpeggios the whole time. And you do that the entire piece, so there's not much to think about in terms of this hand, except for the musical balance. So the A finger is going to be playing the melody pretty much the whole time. So you really want the A finger to pop out of the texture. So it's at the top of the hierarchy, and that A finger is just going to be popping that melody out the whole time. And then next up in the hierarchy would be the bass voice, producing enough resonance that your melody has something to float on top of, right? And that your melody can kind of soar over top of this sustain and this resonance. And then, of course, the IM fingers, which is just repeated the whole time, in the first half anyway, they should just be suppressed, and don't make anything of them. They're just accompaniment notes, so they should be much softer. So once you've done that, you've practiced the melody on its own to make sure that it's the most important thing in the music. The thing that everyone's listening to is smooth and connected, it's shaped, it has phrasing. There's times when it's very expressive and extroverted. There's times when it's very introverted. And then you're going to go through the balance of the right hand to make sure that that melody is coming out more than the other voices. So that's really important as well. And then after the first half of the piece, it goes to a major section, and suddenly there's G sharps in there and all these sharps. So you just have to make sure that you have a little bit of a change of mood. For me, it's like the first half is a little bit more serious, a little bit darker, and then the second half is a little bit more lighthearted. It's just like a fonder memory of something. And so you can kind of loosen your tempo slightly. Don't do it too much, but like just loosen up a little bit and be expressive and whatnot. And make sure there's a little bit of a contrast between the first half and the second half. I mean, the music does that for you to some extent, but you want to make sure that it's very clear to the audience that there's a change there. Let's just walk through the piece, and I'll just point out a couple of technical errors. The first half of the piece is much easier than the second half, but most of it just is in regards to some barring and then some stretches. So I'll just guide you through that. But there won't be too much to discuss. I'll just go a little bit slower. And then you're going to go back up, hold on to this note, and do that stretch if you can. If you can't, then just move up. But it'd be nice to have a little bit of vibrato. Vibrato is just that back and forth modulation of your finger, which changes the sound from this to just a little bit of like a human vibrato. It's like that you would get out of the human voice, right? So we're at the top there. When you shift down there, some people might do the fourth finger the whole time. If you're feeling like a little insecure about that shift, I mean, I even made a little mistake there, but I'm just jumping down to the fourth finger, but feel free to move your finger down if you feel that's a little bit safer for you. I'm just getting rid of one of those shifts by using my second finger. And then, luckily, you have that finger down. I would do a full bar here. You can see many videos of people doing a half bar, but the thing is that there's a full bar right after. So you might as well just put a full bar down and not have to risk that kind of jump. You can just move your hand calmly up 2 frets and then you're kind of set, right? So some people play a D sharp here, but I've been just doing the B. That's marked on the score, you'll see it, but I just play it the way I've written if you can't make a choice. Not much to say there. There's that little bit of a stretch. It only lasts for a moment. As long as your bar is secure and straight across the fret, you just have to tuck that third finger in. It's a little cramped, but it's not that bad. And then reach out, and just try to reach out and be close to the fret, even if you have to straighten your finger out, which is kind of bad technique. Even if you have to, just it only lasts for a second. And then you're kind of home free after that. On the second page, when you start off with that E major, I close the E just for expressive reasons. You can easily, this is bar 19, you can play an open E if you want. The other reason I do it, I guess, is to avoid that, like, putting the A finger another string up, which just doesn't happen anywhere else in the piece where you have to bypass a string like that. But it really just doesn't matter. Whichever way, if you do play the open string, just make sure that it's warm enough. I'm just closing it. Doesn't matter. That little X in bar 20, if you don't know, that's a double sharp. So that it's a C double sharp, so it's the same note as D. So C, C sharp, double sharp. It's the same note as D, but it has to be written as that because of the way the harmony works in the piece. So just keep that in mind. Now, you'll notice that in a couple of spots that at the end of a phrase, I'm using rubato for an expressive effect. Here, at bar 20 to 21, that expressive effect of using some rubato really helps with that shift. Because just that little bit of relaxation at the end of 20 makes it a lot easier to shift way up here to this, a little bit of an awkward chord shape. I mean, these two fingers don't like to separate very well, so that shape isn't the most comfortable for everyone. So just take your time on the bar before. And just make sure you have it. A little bit of fancy finger work there if you're an intermediate kind of level student, but coming out of that bar, you just slide the fourth finger up and get the accompaniment notes with the bar. That way you're in the bar for the next measure. So that spot there, I've fingered it differently in the past, and you can see different fingerings for it. But I think the easiest way is to just keep your bar down. Get the C sharp, and then worry about the chord that comes afterwards. Lots of people feel like this is a very unstable chord, and it is because it's quite the stretch. But the thing is if you just lock down the melody note first, which you should be focusing on the melody anyway, then that's your point of security right there. You get that note, and then you just make sure you get the rest of the chord. But without that note, all is lost, right? If you try to like take your whole hand off and make the whole chord shape, and then you miss all the notes, like you miss the chord notes and the melody note, it's going to be a disaster, right? So you just focus on getting the melody note and get the accompaniment afterwards. Because even in a risky performance, if you got like the melody note and not the accompaniment notes, it would still sound okay, right? It's the main thing that everyone's focused on, the melody, would still be there. So just make sure you get it. Same thing, use some rubato to navigate the chord changes. And then D, C, L fine, so it's back to the beginning up to the end of the first half there. So the phrasing, the way that we phrase the line and give the line musical direction, like spiraling towards the end of the phrase and then relaxing at the end of a phrase, will allow you to combine the musicality with the difficult techniques of the piece. Without that connection, you could be fighting the two things. Like either your technique is going to mess up your musicality, or your musicality is going to mess up your technique for some reason. So you want to make them work together in the context of what would be acceptable musically. You don't want to go so far that you've totally lost the beat. You want enough of the pulse that the audience can anticipate exactly where your pulse is and follow you very easily, without going so far that you lose the pulse or you lose the audience. So I would aim for being subtle. When I have my students practice this, I have them practice it with a metronome until they can do the shifts. And then we turn the metronome off and we can just let it relax and just use a little bit more rubato so that the piece still has lots of life in it. But all the musical principles are generally pretty solid. So that's what you're aiming for. But go grab the free sheet music. And this is a great piece for intermediate students, like students reaching the mid-intermediate level, because there's a number of tricky parts in it, but it's still like very satisfying. And it's a very popular piece. Everyone loves the piece and knows the piece, so it's a great crowd pleaser for intermediate students. And if you're an advanced student, it's a good crowd pleaser, a gig piece, of course, so you want to know it for that reason. But it could also be a really good experiment in whether you can play it in a really polished, professional way. That means avoiding squeaks, getting the difficult shapes, bringing out the melody really nicely. And you know, like some hardcore classical guitarists might kind of like frown at the piece because it's so overplayed, but it's a lovely piece. It has a beautiful melody and nice accompaniments. It does what the guitar does well. So it's a good piece. There's no reason to bash the piece just because it's popular. It's a real beautiful piece. It's a really nice piece. And audiences generally like it a lot. So it's great for gigs and as well for students and professionals alike. So hope you enjoy that and you get the free sheet music, and we'll be doing more videos in the future.